Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and in today's video, we're going to look at 5 ways to use Yammer. So we'll start by looking at how to use Yammer from your desktop, and we'll take a look at the admin center. Then we'll switch gears and look at it from the mobile apps. Then we'll look at it from the SharePoint integration. We'll look at it from the Teams integration. And then finally, I'll end with how to use Yammer with the progressive web app. I'll even show you how to go ahead and get that installed on your machine. So stick around, this is going to be fun because I'll share a lot of tidbits and some new features that are going to be coming out soon. So like I said, stick around. But first, here's my intro video. So let's get started. Now before I go and show you any of those 5 different ways to use Yammer, the first thing you got to do is turn on the Yammer service for your users. And for that, I'm going to come into my Microsoft 365 Admin Center, which is right here. I'll go ahead and first find out which are the active users that I need. And in my case, I'll just go ahead and search for myself, which is Daniel Christian, and do that. And then when I find myself, I just got to go ahead and make sure I click on it. And then when I go and click on it, I'll go and see that these are all the licenses and apps. Now in the licenses and apps, it's not the first section that you see. You got to go all the way down to the apps, and in the apps, usually way at the bottom, you will see Yammer Enterprise, and then you'll also see what kind of license that you have. You got to turn this on for your users to make sure that they can start using Yammer. Now I do know that there are other ways to do it. You can go and use an Active Directory, security groups. You do what works best for you, but I just wanted to show you which service needs to be turned on. So we're good? Cool. So now that you've gone ahead and taken care of that, the next thing that you will do is you'll actually just go to your office.com, and in your office.com, when you click on the waffle icon, which is on the top left, right at the bottom over there, you will see, or right in the middle over here, you will see Yammer. And when I click on it, your Yammer shows up, and that will actually show you this type of URL, which will also show you usually your company's logo, or depends on how the URL is, but mostly this is where you come and you sit over here. And this is what is the desktop version of the Yammer piece over here. So there's a few things which is going on over here. First of all, how does your Yammer look? And for that, there's an option over here. It's called New Yammer, and there's a toggle switch. Now in my tenant, it is on by default, but in your case, you might actually already have it at this classic design of it. See, this is what the old design was. So if you're first time coming over here, you might actually see something like this. But on the top right, there will be try the new Yammer. I highly recommend you go and toggle that on because the new look and feel is so much better. They've actually rebuilt this design piece from scratch. So I highly recommend that you do that. Now when you're over here, again, if you guys are new to Yammer, if this is the first time you're using it, that you won't see all this communities over here. You might actually only see the all company. All company is the default community. And by the way, that's how Yammer is. Back in the day, old days, we used to have something called as Yammer networks. Well, that's not the case anymore. It's Yammer communities. And in Yammer communities, like I said, by default, everybody will have all company. And then after that, it depends on what level of access that you have. Because if you are allowed to also create Microsoft 365 groups, then you will see this option on the bottom. It's called create a community. Because when you create a community, it actually goes ahead and creates a Microsoft 365 group. And I'll show you an example. So I'm going to randomly create this Power Apps. So when I create this Power Apps, it says all this community resources. You've got a SharePoint library, SharePoint site, OneNote Planner. See, these all come with your Microsoft 365 group. So key thing over there is that when you go and create a Yammer community, you're creating a Microsoft 365 group. And there's one way I can actually prove that to you. So if I were to go into, say, my SharePoint Admin Center, and I go and click on all my sites, in my sites now, if I go way to the right, you've got something called as the customized columns. On the customized columns, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there is this checkbox now. It's called created from. And if I click on the created from and I click on apply, now if I go all the way to the right and the created from, if I click on filter by, over here, way at the bottom, I'll click on Yammer. And you can see these are all the sites that were created. Now if I scroll to the left, you'll see these are all the SharePoint sites that are tied to it. And if I now go back over here, you kind of see the resemblance. So that's the proof that this SharePoint community is a Microsoft 365 group. Now in the SharePoint community, there's so much to do. It's just filled with all kinds of stuff. And I'll just show you some examples which I have over here. Right now, if I want to go and start a discussion, I can actually do a discussion. I can go and add people. I can make it as an announcement. There is just a ton of stuff available. Questions, praise, polls, just all kind of jazz available over there. And I'll have to leave that for another day, just deep diving into each and any one of them. But I do want to spend a little bit of time on this one key functionality that comes with the desktop version. So for each and every one of these communities that you go to, if you are, say, a community owner or the person who's created it, either way, if you're just a community user, you see on the top right, it tells you a little bit about the members that you have access to. Also, if you take your mouse and you hover over the number, it actually becomes a link. And you can click on the link and it'll tell you that, oh, okay, so in this community, Daniel is the admin, but Finn, who's my puppy, he actually is one of the users. Also, you are able to come over here and you can go ahead and make sure that somebody is not a community. You can revoke that community access, revoke the admin level access. There's a lot of magic that you can do only from the desktop side. So something you want to keep in mind. And now, talking about the desktop side, the other key functionality is when you come over here, you've got something called as Edit Network Admin Settings. This is how the Yammer admins, the technical term is verified admins. This is where they're able to go and come in and do all their admin level stuff. So from the admin standpoint, this is what it is. I come into the admins and you see right now Rosanna Christian, she is what's called as a verified admin. Verified admin is like the Uber level access that you get from a Yammer perspective. Keep in mind that anybody who is a global admin, they by default get Yammer level access. So you can see over here, I am Daniel Christian, I have a global level admin access, and so therefore I by default also get access over here. Now I want to pause over here and talk about that one new feature which is going to come out. And this is a big wow for me, because in other services such as SharePoint, Teams, Exchange, we have something called as a privileged identity management, and that uses something called as roles. So what are roles? Well, let me go and talk about that in a minute. You go to Azure Active Directory over here. We go to Azure Active Directory, and in Azure Active Directory, we see roles and administrators. This roles and administrators is a very important built-in tool to go ahead and allow you to use called privileged identity management. Privileged identity management gives you something called as a break glass access, which means that you can get a admin level access for a designated amount of time. Now, if I were to go and search over here, say for SharePoint, you would see that there's one for SharePoint. You would go ahead and search one for Teams. You would see that there is a few for Teams. There's even one for the Power Platform. All right. But here's the thing. There isn't one right now for Yammer. If I were to go ahead and search for Yammer, there isn't one over here. However, they made an announcement on that. And if I'll go and click on the announcement, you will see that it's on the roadmap that a new administrative role in Azure Active Directory is going to be arriving. And if I go and click on it and expand it, you will actually see right there that it is going to be GA, generally available in June of 2022. So I'm really excited about that one over here as well. And the moment that will happen, we will be able to get the break glass type of access over there. And that break glass access gives you functionality to go ahead and still get the verified admin level access, but you will be allowed only anywhere from 8 hours to up to 24 hours. You can go up to 24 hours. So I thought I'll definitely add that piece over here from the admin standpoint. Now, the next important thing is which mode are you on? Oh, Daniel, what do you mean by that? All right, so here's a very important thing. So in Yammer, there were actually different types of modes. And over here, there's a really good Microsoft documentation that talks about that you actually had these 3 different types of modes. Normally, it only boiled down to 2. Are you in the native mode or are you in the hybrid mode? And the important thing about the hybrid mode is that if you were before January 2020, then you could be in the old or the hybrid Yammer mode. What that means is that when you created a community, all that data stayed inside Yammer, all the files stayed inside Yammer. But if you started using Yammer after January 2020, then you would automatically be in the native mode. What native mode means is that anytime you created a community, it goes ahead and actually creates it as a Microsoft 365 group. And that's a very important thing for you to know. Also, for you guys who have already been before January 2020, you have the functionality now to go to your Yammer Admin Center, and then you can go ahead and click on this Microsoft 365 native mode. And when you click on the native mode, you will have an option right there to go ahead and migrate that into the native mode. It does the whole thing for you. It does take a little bit of time depending on how many community members that you already have, but it does the whole thing for you. In fact, it walks you through all of these processes. It'll actually even generate a report for you to review ahead of time. but I highly recommend that you do that because that is the way to go. It's really hard to maintain in a hybrid mode because depending on where your data sits, it could sit on Yammer, it could sit on M365 groups. So I highly recommend that you at least pick one. And my recommendation is switch over to the native mode. And by the way, some of you may not even have that option because if you are again past the January 2020, then you're already in the native mode. So just ignore this piece. But for your sake, if you see that I went ahead and did the transition because I was before January 2020. So I went ahead and did my transition into the native mode. And now my communities are directly tied to the M365 groups. And now I cannot leave this place by talking this one personal feature that I like a whole lot. And that is when I come over there in my community, I click on the settings, I get the functionality to use the dark mode. And this I really like. Besides the fact that it just looks well, it's really pleasing to the eyes. Your eyes gets a little bit more comfortable using this. So kind of play around with this whole thing over here. And this is how it works from the desktop piece. Now let's switch over and look at it from the mobile side. So in my case, this is an iPhone device. And for that, I come on to my App Store. And in the App Store, I can go ahead and search for Yammer. And right there on the second over there, it's called Yammer by Microsoft. I go and click on it. And right there, you will see that this is the Yammer option available. As you can see, Yammer Business, that's the one that's available. Now, I've already gone ahead and downloaded and installed it on my machine. Therefore, I see the option for open, but you will be able to go ahead and install it. And then once you go and do all of that, right there is my Yammer. So when I go and click on the Yammer, it gives me the same mobile device functionality that you would always see over there. All right. It's also important to note, I should have said this before, is that Yammer does have its own mobile app because there's also a Microsoft 365 app section, but Yammer has its own exclusive app over here, which is pretty neat on that. Because I can remember, I just went and showed it to you from the desktop side, but now on the bottom, you see the navigation menu on the bottom. If I went and clicked on communities, we just saw these communities on the desktop as well. So what I'm trying to say is that if you've gone ahead and gotten access to communities from the desktop side or the browser side, well, you will get to see the exact same things over here. And if I go and click on any one of them, which is on the top one, which is the Power Apps, you see how responsive and the beautiful design that is. I mean, everything that I put on the desktop automatically fits over here from a really good user interface. The user experience, the UI and the UX is actually pretty neat over here. And you're able to even go ahead and do editing and editing. You can do CRUD operations, create, read, use, design, all of that. You can do it right over here. I can go and say, hey, that was a great one. Go and puts the like button over there. I can go ahead and add comments. I can do all of that feature and functionality directly here from the mobile app. Now, since we are on the mobile app, you can also go and take a look at the communications piece. There is inbox pieces. Again, same type of functionality that we had from the desktop side. Now, if you remember, I just mentioned a few minutes ago that the admin functionality doesn't come in the Yammer desktop. And just to prove that, you saw I was a global admin, and even me as a global admin, if I went on the top left, I'm able to see all of these things. I'm also able to go and see my settings, and my settings, this is all that I have functionality. The apply to theme is there, which is really great. The reaction for the skin tone is there, but I don't see all those admin, like the network admin settings, which me as a verified admin or a global admin can see. I don't see all of that functionality over there. But other than that, I mean, the full fidelity, the full functionality to go ahead and use your Yammer experience from a mobile device is pretty good. So now that you've seen this, let's go and look at it from a SharePoint perspective. So I'm back over here in my office.com. I click on the waffle menu on the top left. I go ahead and click on SharePoint. It takes me to the SharePoint centralized place. And now I go and click on team leads, managers, and executives. So this over here is a very important SharePoint site for all the team leads and executives. But over here, I'm going to go ahead and now embed the SharePoint widgets. So actually, I've already got a page created. So what I did was I first went and created a page. You can go and do that as well. And there, I'm going to go ahead and add all the Yammer stuff. So here's an example. As you can see, I've named this as Yammer. It doesn't do that automatically. You've got to actually go and name the Yammer. But then you can go ahead and get all of these widgets that are available. Now, if you notice, this looks a lot like the Power Apps community that I created in Yammer. I went ahead and pulled all that information in. So let's take a look at how that was done, all right? So I'm going to go and now click on Edit. And in Edit, let's just pretend that this is not here. Now, in order for me to add the widgets, if you go and hover on the top, you see this plus. If I click on the plus, you will actually go ahead and see the frequently used ones. Or if you scroll down, you will see under Feeds, 2 of these options available. There is the connections and then the highlights. These are the widgets that you can go, or the connections that you can go and make into Yammer. And that's basically what I did, is I went ahead and showed you both. So conversations, this is the one that I did for the conversations. So now I'll just go and click on the pencil to edit that web part. And as you can see, it gives you a good amount of information that you can do. So I went ahead and selected the community option. You can go ahead and basically use user, topic, home feed. You've got a lot of options. So let's actually look at a few of them. If you want to just go ahead and search for a user, then click on the user, and then you can go and search for what is that user's name or the conversations tied to that user. Now you know that there is a different topic, conversation called as topics. Topics is how you basically go and tag, for lack of a better term. Well, if you've got topics selected, then you can go ahead and now get those topics directly from Yammer. So in my side, I've got a bunch of topics that are already created. So if I want to go and see any of the communities, conversations that I've got in any of the communities which have these topics, let's go and bring that over here on the SharePoint side. A key thing to note is that it doesn't give you full access to all the communities. Only the communities that you have access to are the communities that are open for everyone, the public ones. Those are the ones that you can only pull over here. Otherwise, if there's a community you do not have access to, they will not show up over here because permissions are pretty tight and permissions are the fundamentals. And the same thing for the home feed. If you've got, again, a home feed which is coming in, pull that over here. So these are the amazing options available: community, user, topics, and home feed. But now that we've seen how to do it, if we go ahead and take a look at it, I'm going to go ahead and now discard the changes and click on OK. And right here, right, so this is the one I've gone and pulled. Important thing I want to show is that it's over here that you've gone ahead and brought that Yammer community in. You can start leveraging it. So if I actually go and start putting information over here, thanks for the poll, it will actually go ahead and save it. You're actually pretending like you're in that community, because if I go to Yammer by itself, I'll see the same post over there. Same thing, I can go ahead and put in likes, I can go and put in comments, all of these things. It's as if you are inside that community, inside Yammer. This is that level of that widget that's available. But then the second one that I showed you about the highlights, well, this is what it looks like. I'm only getting highlights. So if I go ahead and now click on the edit, and if you go and take a look at that web part, so if I scroll down and now I go and click on here and click on the pencil, you will see that this one's properties are a little different. It is going ahead and getting all this information. I can go ahead and filter it based on the community level. I can go and do all of these other things. But after all said and done, the only thing that it is allowing me to do is read it. And if I were to click on any one of them, it opens up another tab and takes me directly into that community. So you can actually do that right here. It says, if you want to post to Yammer, you click on it and it'll directly post it over here, which is great. But if I were to go and click on any one of them, it opens up another tab and then I go into Yammer and see it. So that's the two very clear distinctions between the web parts. They're both available for SharePoint, but the one on the top lets you actually do operations. You can go ahead and add comments, you can go ahead and edit comments, you can view it and everything. But on the one on the bottom, it does literally what it says. It's only to see the highlights. Anytime you go ahead and click on it, it will take you directly inside Yammer. But other than that, the integration with SharePoint is awesome. Well, now let's go take a look at it from the Teams side. Now here I am inside Microsoft Teams. And I want to take those large discussions, across the company, across different departments, those type of discussions that are happening in the Yammer communities. I want to go and bring those and have conversations inside my own teams, which is just my own team members. Now, instead of me going ahead and copying and pasting it or going ahead and looking over there and come back over here, wouldn't it be awesome if I can just go and integrate that directly inside Teams? And you can now directly with the Teams integration piece. So to do that, first you got to go to the bottom left, you click on apps, and in apps, what you want to do is actually search for communities. You literally are searching for a Yammer communities, but to make it easy, go ahead and just search for communities. And if I just go into communities, you can see that that's the actual name. It's called communities. But if you see the icon of the logo, that's Yammer. Now, in case if you don't see it over there, reach out to your Teams admins because they might not have approved this app in your tenant. Your team admins can take care of that. But if you do, that's great. If you see it, simply click on it. It will go ahead and add that into your community, into your basically team. And then there you can go ahead and see the Yammer icon. And then after that, once you see it, if you want to just keep it over there as is, simply go and right click on that and pin it. And then it'll always stay over here. But do you notice something? This looks a lot like as if we were on the browser. And just to prove it, see what this looks like. And if I go and click on the browser, it looks almost the exact same, and you get the same feel, the same experience. So in Teams basically feels like you are directly inside Yammer. So as I come in over here, you can see that it has all the functionality. I can go ahead and click on any one of the communities. It's giving me all the conversations that are happening over here in the communities. I can go ahead and create, I can go ahead and applaud, I can comment. Basically, I can go ahead and interact directly in the community. I can go and create a community over here. When I go and click on it, it gives me the functionality to do everything I was able to go ahead and do directly inside the browser version over there. Now, there is a couple of things I want you to notice. On the top right, you see these functions. Again, these were available on the browser side as well. But the only thing is if I click on it, what it does is it actually opens up a browser tab for me. So even though you see those icons, you don't actually do that integration directly inside the Teams, especially settings and all of your account settings. You can't do that directly inside Teams, but it does make it easy for you that it opens up a browser and it takes you directly to that setting so you can go and start doing all of that information work over there. You also have the same functionality to do the search. Something very important to notice, because if you want to do a Yammer search, then you go and use this search bar, because the one on the top is not going to do that for you. But hey, at least they thought it through and they went and got the Yammer integration directly inside Teams over here. Now, I just want to show you one more thing, is that if you were doing apps over here, you did the search and you went ahead and did a search for, say, Yammer, you would actually find these three things as well. Well, those are not Yammer related. They're actually Power Automate related, but they've got some really nice built-in flow templates over there. But if you want to go ahead and actually get any of the Yammer related posts from the Yammer and directly post it inside Teams, then you can do that over here. So just another option available for you using Power Automate. Now, let's go and take a look at the Progressive Web App. Now, Progressive Web Apps, or PWA, really takes your browser level experience and brings it down into an app level experience. And I love the way it explains over here. It says that it is the best of the web and combined apps together. Now, the one thing I want to point out over here is it says that a PWA can still work when the device is offline. Well, that's not the case for Yammer, because over here, when your PWA Yammer app is working, but if you lose internet connection, all the feeds from the conversation goes away. And I'll show you that in a minute. And now let me just show you how to go ahead and install it. So I'm going to go and close this tab. And I highly recommend that you do this from the Edge browser, at least for that one time when you're doing the installing. If you're a diehard Google Chrome browser, that's fine. You can go back to your Google Chrome. I recommend you do this from your Edge browser. And here's why. Once you are in your Edge browser, make sure you are in a Yammer site or a community. Go over there. Then on the top right, you click on the communities. You click on the ellipsis and then you click on apps, and now you will see this option, install this site as an app. But it's imperative, it's absolutely imperative that you are on Yammer. And I'll show that to you. Because if I was switching tabs and I went on the office.com and I went back to my ellipsis and I go and click on apps, you see, I don't see that option. But if I switch back on the Yammer and I click on the ellipsis, I go and click on the apps, now I see that functionality. So I click on it, it's going to go and ask me, do you want to install this app and name it as Yammer? I said, fine, I'll go and do that. I'll click on install, and then right that, it'll go ahead and set it up for you. It even gives you some options. They say, hey, these are what is allowed in this app. Are you okay with it? I says, yes, I'm okay. I'll go and click on allow. And there you are. You've got the full browser experience directly inside your desktop. And this is full fidelity. What I mean is that if I go over here on the top right, if I click on settings, it actually shows me the settings over here. I can even go and turn on the dark mode. Remember when we were talking about it from the Teams side, if I clicked on any of that, it opened up the browser tab. Not over here in the Progressive Web App. You are able to do everything. It is full fidelity. I can click on any of my communities. I can go and see all this information put over here. I can go ahead and say posted from PWA, and it is awesome. I'll go and post it, and I just make sure that, yep, I have my internet connection, so it's gone ahead and posted. Any second now, I'll be able to see it from my browser as well. If I just go and refresh it, oh, I didn't even have to refresh it. It just said show one new message, and right there it came. See, I didn't even have to refresh the browser. It is that fast. Now, the point that I wanted to talk about was the offline mode. So here I am in my Progressive Web App. I'm going to go ahead and now disconnect my internet connection. All right, so right here I'm going to go and disconnect it. So I do not have any internet connection right now. And while you are here, it looks fully functional. But now I'm in this Power Apps community. If I go and switch over to another community, this is what I get, is that conversations aren't loaded right now. Try again in a few minutes. So the documentation that we said is that the PWA will work with the device offline. It doesn't work inside Yammer piece over here. And if I went back to the original community as well, I just lost all the feeds over here. So it does have this overall design look, but the actual feeds, those are the ones that I've lost over there. But if I go back now and go ahead and get my internet connection back again, I'll go ahead and connect that. And then any second now, I'll go ahead and get all my feeds coming in. It just starts working over there. I didn't have to go and sign in again or anything. It just starts working. So I really like the whole concept of using this progressive web apps directly from your desktop. And now I don't even need the browser. So hopefully this video started giving you a few ideas on, depending on which situation, which one of these 5 options that you can use. And I also recommend that you start playing with this progressive web app so you get familiar with it and you don't always have to use the browser. I also briefly mentioned what is a good scenario to use Yammer. Remember that across the company, cross department, and then when to use Teams when it is just tied to your department or your teams. So hopefully this video was helpful, and as always, keep using Yammer. Hey everyone, hopefully you found this video useful. And if you did, can you help me help you? Can you subscribe to this YouTube channel? Because remember, I provide fresh content on a weekly basis and it's 100% free. So if you have subscribed, thank you so much and pass the word. But if you haven't, subscribe, click on the bell notification and let the learning begin.